What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Ultra League with newly buffed Pokemon, specifically XL Forretress, XL Dragalge, and Gliscod. Of course, Gliscod did get access to the buffed Fury Cutter. Well, it already had access, but now it has a buffed version of the Fury Cutter, which is now a Psywave clone this season. However, you're going to notice in these battles I'm actually not opting for it, and that's because of a weakness between Forretress and Dragalge, which you might be able to already notice. But yeah, I have the rank 1 Ultra League Dragalge, so I was very excited to bust this out and try it. And then as a dragon, it resists Forretress's main weakness, so I thought that core would work really well. The only problem that this team has is that both Bug Bite and Acid are resisted by Ghosts, which is why I'm using Shadow Claw on Gliscod instead of Fury Cutter. But without further ado, let's hop right into some battles. This is a very expensive team, but in the first match we've got an Ampharos on the lead. This is a good lead for the Forretress because we've got the bulk, and while we can't outpace to an Earthquake before they get to a potential Focus Blast or Zap Cannon here, I can outpace to a Rock Tomb, so I will just throw that. And now that we've lowered their attack, if they do full send a nuke move, which they do in Focus Blast, I can actually live that and get the full farm down. They then come in with a Tentacruel, so I am going to make it to an Earthquake here and either grab that shield from my opponent or do huge damage. My opponent decides huge damage is the way to go. They have farmed up enough for a Blizzard here, so I will respect this damage. They actually do have Blizzard, they full send it, and I guess after shielding that up, they knew they no longer had a win con, so they just resigned the match. Galarian Moltres on the lead in the next match is a neutral lead. My opponent ends up safe swapping into an Acid Dragalge of their own. Do they have the rank 1? Probably not, but they do connect with an Aqua Tail. And here comes another Aqua Tail already. That 5-4 pacing is incredibly spammy with the newly buffed Acid, which is super nice. We do get to a Rock Tomb here. This will lower my opponent's attack, but we were unable to get to an Earthquake before they were even able to fire off 2 Aqua Tails, which is pretty embarrassing, but Forretress pacing is very, very slow. But we have the bulk for the moveset that we're running in this meta, which is why we're running the Rock Tomb. And you're going to find that straight Rock Tomb in these matchups is actually enough. And look at this. They already connected with, like, I don't know, 4 Aqua Tails. Here comes another one. Doesn't KO. Acid is double resisted, so they have no ability to farm down. So they're forced to throw another charge move. And at this point, I can just let this go and get an energy lead on either of my Pokemon in the back. The reason I didn't fight for Switch here is because Dragalge has a good matchup in their lead as well, but they actually have a Nidoqueen in the back, and this could be an issue because Nidoqueen is now on Poison Sting this season, which is a buffed move, which means they get to the Earth Power even faster, but who cares if you can catch it onto your Gliscod. So we do get a nice catch there, and they send in the Galarian Moltres here. Obviously Shadow Claw is resisted, where Fury Cutter would be neutral here, so this is a little bit unfortunate in this matchup here. But at this point, I need to commit to Dragalge, so I'm just going to let this go. In comes the Dragalge. Can I make it to an Outrage before they're able to make it to another charge move? The answer is yes. Do they respect this damage? They do not, so they let that go. And now it is a 2-shield Dragalge against a Nidoqueen. My opponent does farm back up to the Earth Power here, but it is most likely a Poison Fang bait. Am I willing to call this bait? Not really. It's risky, and if they full send, I just instantly lose the game, but they do end up baiting. And Dragalge has such a pacing advantage here that I don't really need to call a bait. I can make it to back-to-back charge moves because I knew they were energy dry after catching that last one. So now I can just go for another Aqua Tail, pick up the knockout on the Nidoqueen, and XL rank 1 Dragalge able to sweep up that end game. Forretress into Bellibolt in the next match. This is a neutral lead. My opponent safe switches into a Skeledirge, and I do not have a great response to Skeledirge, to be completely honest. Gliscod obviously has super effective Shadow Claw and Aqua Jet here. However, if my opponent goes for a Torch Song here and then boosts their Incinerate damage, they can actually get a full farm down here. They do end up throwing an alignment, allowing me to get an entire Shadow Claw in for free, but I don't think after boosting their attack twice that I can even live the next Incinerate, so I'm forced to go for one Shadow Claw and the Aqua Jet. They grab a shield, we grab a shield, but they are able to get the full farm down. In comes DRAGALGE. They could full send a Shadow Ball here, so I will respect this damage after being double boosted with Torch Songs, and they do, so that's clutch. In comes a FORRETRESS. Can I make it to the Outrage? Looks like not quite. I would have made it to an Outrage on the CMP tie with the Hydro Cannon, and I was getting pretty low. I did not want to take that damage on DRAGALGE. Well, I wasn't getting low, but I'd rather take that damage on FORRETRESS, where I know FORRETRESS doesn't have play into that Skeleton. So I will soak up 2 of those. We end up just going down with that, not even being able to throw a move, but now that allows me to overfarm. I can make it to an Outrage. Outrage will pick up the knockout onto the FORRETRESS. In comes the Belly Bolt. We know this is a great matchup for us because they are completely resisted with all of their charge moves. Discharge, Parabolic Charge, Zap Cannon, it is all resisted, but we have no shield, so my opponent has like no reason to not go for a Zap Cannon here, but they end up going for a Parabolic Charge, trying to boost their defense. That allows me to overfarm here, play to the CMP tie of their next Parabolic Charge, and I wasn't confident that an Aqua Tail would KO after that. After they boosted their defense with a Parabolic Charge. In comes the Skeleton. I'm able to make it to another Aqua Tail, surviving that Incinerate, and we pick up the knockout. So once again, Acid DRAGALGE really putting in a lot of work in this matchup. Into the next match, we've got a pretty neutral lead, XL FORRETRESS into Pangoro. Of course, the Pangoro has a huge pacing advantage in this matchup. However, we can call a bait here. It is the Night Slash bait. This can only be enough for another Night Slash, so I will certainly let this go. And at this point, do I just full send the Earthquake? The answer is yes. I'm not expecting my opponent to commit a shield back, trying to call a Rock Tomb bait, and that's exactly what happens. So we end up taking switch in a 0 shield scenario. In comes Guzzlord. Can I make it to the Rock Tomb? The answer is yes. This is going to do massive super effective damage, and it will lower their attack. So my opponent does end up committing the shield, and the reason I stay in there to get those bug bites off is because DRAGALGE is a complete wall to energy, but they have a Landorus in the back, the Incarnate form, so this is a bit of an interesting pick. Not even like a Gliscor, but I'm able to grab a shield with the Aqua Tail, and now I can just come in with Guzzlord. I can live one rock slide, so I will let that go. Now I'm going to go for the Aqua Jet immediately. Landorus is extremely glassy in the Ultra League. This one hit KOs from 75% HP, and at this point this game is over. DRAGALGE is a complete wall to the Golisopod. Golisopod, X-Scissor, and Aqua Jet are both resisted here, so all I have to do is make it to an Outrage. I know I can live one. Heck, I could probably live 2 here. Yeah, oh my goodness, especially when they go for X-Scissor. Both are resisted here. Just go for the Aqua Jet. It's a better damage per energy move. They go for another X-Scissor, and after no shielding 2 of those and having 2 shields remaining, we're able to get the 2 shield flex, and we are able to take that win. Guzzlord on the lead in the next match. This is the Dream lead. Bug Bite, super effective. Everything Dragon is resisted here. They're already at 50% HP before they're even able to get to a crunch. That is absolutely insanity. They go for the crunch. In comes a Gastrodon. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to chip, because I don't really need the charge move pressure onto the Guzzlord. We've seen how much those bug bites are doing, so I'm just going to ensure that I can maintain switch here. Obviously, Earth Power is resisted onto the Golisopod, so they are forced to go for these body slams here. They will be able to make it to another body slam because this Aqua Jet will not be enough to KO. Aqua Jet puts them at 1 HP, but that's fine because that means I can get extra energy to threaten the Guzzlord if it comes back in, because X-Scissor is super effective, but my opponent knows that, so they actually come in with their third being an Acid Tentacruel, a shiny one at that. So now we can connect with an Aqua Jet. It is the better damage per energy move, as I said. Can I make it to 2 more is the question, and the answer is yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw these moves back to back because I will not be able to survive 1 more Acid, and my opponent knows that, so they actually make a really nice catch onto their Guzzlord. But that means that I can actually preserve my Golisopod, and now I can come in with the FORRETRESS. I don't even need to throw a charge move. We've put them at 1 HP. It's just a Dragon Claw as well. We get the full farm down, and now they only have a Tentacruel left. And believe it or not, the IVs of 14, 15, 15 coming in clutch in this matchup, winning CMP against a Tentacruel of all things. and now that means that we've grabbed a shield from my opponent. They go for an acid spray bait that is double resisted opponent. You cannot do that. You had to full send a Scald here, but now we know they're completely walled our Dragalge. They go for another acid spray, and here comes the Dragalge. My opponent sees the typing, and they just resign the match. Into the next match, fantastic lead again. We've got Malamar. Bug bites are double super effective, but my luck is instantly changed when they come in with a Galarian Weezing. We don't have any great matchups in the back for this, but they do end up farming up to the overheat and then baiting with a sludge. That tells me that they probably actually are on overheat and we're just unwilling to lower their attack. So now that I think they're on sludge and overheat, I'm going to come in with my Dragalge. Dragalge completely resists that moveset, and once they go for the sludge there, I am pretty confident that is exactly the moveset that they are on. They go for another sludge. That allows me to overfarm here. They then come in with the Malamar, understanding that our switch timers are desynced. The Malamar does actually respect the outrage, which is kind of surprising considering they know they're going to be aligned to my Forretress after this. We actually live the foul play and are able to bank that Aqua Tail for later, which is huge. In comes the Forretress. They full send the superpower here. That doesn't do that much damage. We can fully get the Bug Bite farm down. That is double super effective damage. In comes a Belly Bolt. And I think they actually surprised me here because they're on Thunder Shock, not on Sucker Punch. So I was trying to overfarm there. I ended up overfarming a little bit too much. In comes the Galarian Weezing, and I'm going to go for an undercharge here. This is a calculated risk. Can I get the Bug Bite farm down? I can. They were exactly 3 Fairy Winds away, which is absolutely clutch because now all I have to do is grab that final shield from my opponent, and this game is over because I have Dragalge in the back. Actually, Dragalge is basically taken out as at 1 HP, but we've grabbed that final shield, and they're pretty much at in Aqua Jet range at this point. But if they do boost their defense twice here, this could get a little bit sketchy. There's one Parabolic Charge. We can live one, but here comes another already. I might need to catch out of this matchup if I'm unable to get to an Aqua Jet and the full Shadow Claw farm down. So I am going to go for the Aqua Jet as soon as I get to it. The Aqua Jet connects, that puts them deep into the red. I have the Aqua Tail banked, so now I can combo play with the Dragalge, and Aqua Tail is enough to KO, and we are able to take that win. Elo Colo, Twitch streamer on my screen in the next match, and they are running a Galarian Zapdos. Galarian Zapdos did, of course, get the fly buff this season, so I save switch into my Golisopod. And they do not respond with a safe switch of their own. They do end up letting the Aqua Jet go, but I will respect the fly damage. I have 2 counter resists in the back, which is why I safe swapped. And in comes an XL Forretress of their own. Theirs is Shadow here. So now I'm just going to go for the Aqua Jet. I am at back-to-back moves, so they will actually have to potentially respect a second Aqua Jet here because it looks like it might be enough to KO, or maybe just short. And they do actually respect that. They give me the shield back. Can I get the Aqua Jet? Looks like I can, so they are forced to throw their energy. Is it the Rock Tomb? It is. That's a lot of energy wasted. Now I can just come in with my own Forretress. I can take any one charge move here. And my opponent obviously does have extra energy, so I'm probably going to have to throw my energy nearly as soon as I get it. I know they've overfarmed quite a bit. So here comes the Rock Tomb. This will be able to pick up the knockout on the Shadow Forretress. Back in comes the Zapdos. I'm going to save switch into my Dragalge, and this is the strength of Acid Dragalge. We have a Fairy type in the back, but Acid Dragalge does not care because this is neutral damage with these acids, and these Aqua Tails come at a lightning fast pace. Even if my opponent is on Brutal Swing here, I can let this go. It is the Brutal Swing. They're already at the back-to-back moves, but I can actually live 2 of these, and I can't say the same for my opponent. I don't think they can live 2 more Aqua Tails, so even though they have a slight pacing advantage in this matchup, Dragalge looks like it's hitting a little bit harder with the fast move pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch the next Brutal Swing onto my Forretress, which is a huge catch. That connects, and in comes the Zapdos. Can they make it to a charge move or get the farm down? They cannot, which allows me to get the full farm down and come out with a Rock Tomb loaded for the Forretress and with an Aqua Tail loaded on my Dragalge. My opponent just lets that go, and Elo Colo goes down, and we are able to take the win. Into the next match, another dream lead. We've got a Fairy Ice on the lead. They're going to safe switch into Steelix, and suddenly I'm in a bit of a tricky situation. I do not have a good answer. So I'm going to farm up close to the Earthquake, hoping my opponent's counts are off, and they are. They end up shielding a Rock Tomb, which is double resisted, which is huge there. And now I'm going to come in with the Dragalge. Dragalge, of course, does resist Thunder Fang, but it does take super effective damage from the Psychic Fangs and Earthquake if they are potentially running it. And I would not be surprised with the amount of Belly Bolt running around this season if my opponent is on Earthquake, but I'm still going to call it, hoping that they're not, and they actually are on Earthquake, so they full send it there. Pretty unfortunate. The Steelix causing problems for my team. In comes Gliscod. The question is, can I outpace? And the answer is yes. Aqua Jet will be able to pick up the knockout from this range unless my opponent commits 2 shields, and they're not willing to do that. In comes Ninetales, and this is still not a great matchup for the Ninetales because Powder Snow is resisted, and I believe they threw on the CMP tie. So at worst, this could be a Psyshock. So I know I can live this very comfortably and let this go. And it is straight 5 pacing to the Psyshock as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to farm up to the next Aqua Jet and then bank it, trying to get the catch onto my Forretress. I am unsuccessful, but I am able to lure out their Pokemon in the back, which is a Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres will be met with the super effective Rock Tomb. That does massive damage, and it puts them in Bug Bite farm down range. They're at the back-to-back moves, though, so I think I have to let this go because I need an energy lead on my Gliscod. Gliscod can get the full Shadow Claw farm down, but I will have to give up a shield. The problem is the Ninetales is over 1 charge move already, so I need a nice farm down here, and I think that might be enough. Able to make it to back-to-back moves. My opponent knows I'm at back-to-back moves here, so what they're going to do is they're going to make a great play. They're going to let this go, and I'm going to go for one more Shadow Claw, hoping that KOs if I shield this up, and if it doesn't, I'm going to make an insane play here. I'm going to click the move. If they are at 1 HP here and they shield this, it will KO through the shield, and that's exactly what happens, and we are able to take the win. Incredible understanding of my win condition there. Able to clutch for the end game. Into the next match, great lead, Clefable. They safe switch into a Feraligatr, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to overfarm, go for a bunch of Bug Bites, and then catch the Hydro Cannon onto my Gliscod. This already puts me in a great position because I also snuck a Shadow Claw when I caught, so I'm always at an energy lead here. The only issue is 2-shot Hydro Cannons nearly KO plus the Shadow Claws, whereas I'm going to need to make it to 2 charge moves. Fortunately, I do have good IVs on my Gliscod, but if they want to commit the shield, they can flip switch. But that's really okay for me because I can just come in with Dragalge. I can get 1 turn lag, and that's fine, but this is still only enough for a Hydro Cannon, and Hydro Cannon is resisted damage on the Dragalge, so now I have an energy lead on both of my Pokemon, and I didn't really need switch because it is a Fairy on the lead. They are just going to go for the Swift here. Swift is not going to do much damage, so I will let that go. I'm already at the back-to-back Aqua Tails, so Aqua Tail number 1 coming at my opponent. Here comes Aqua Tail number 2. Instead, I'm going to catch onto my Forretress where Swift is resisted and wasting all that energy from my opponent, but here we see why my opponent wanted to flip switch. They had a Skeleturge in the back. Obviously, Incinerate and Torch Song hit for double super effective damage in this matchup, and they get a full farm down. This does put me in an awkward situation, but I'm already at the back-to-back charge move, and even though they're at back-to-back charge moves, all I can do is go for 1 more and the move. They do not throw because I have 2 shields remaining. They think they need to go for a fast move farm down here, but that is not going to work out in their favor. I'm able to make it to another Aqua Tail against the Clefable. This will put them deep into the red, and we should be able to acid farm them down before they can Fairy Wind farm us down. And they do not have enough charge moves here to end up flipping this matchup. So even though they were able to flip the mid game, we still are able to take that win. Forretress into Guzzlord. We've seen this lead before, and it is fantastic. So we're just going to stay in this matchup, but then instantly we are at a bit of an issue because my opponent safe switches into a Jellicent, and I do not have an answer to Jellicent on this team. Obviously, Acid Dragalge, we are resisted with Acid and Aqua Tail, and on Gliscod, even though we have super effective Shadow Claws, Aqua Jet and X-Scissor are double resisted here. Or not double, but both resisted here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play out this matchup, and I'm willing to commit both shields. Because, for one, if I can come out with an X-Scissor loaded, and get the full Shadow Claw farm down, I can at least threaten damage or a shield back from my opponent. So even though they're able to grab both shields from me in this mid game, I can get the full Shadow Claw farm down, come out with energy loaded, and they do come back in with the Guzzlord, and now I maintained alignment, which is huge because Guzzlord on my DRAGALGE would not be good with an energy deficit, and having Fortress on the Guzzlord is huge because we completely wall them, and it is a Skeleturge in the back. So thank God we played to that win condition of maintaining switch. Now we're able to connect with an Aqua Tail unless my opponent shields, and they do. They do obviously have enough for a Shadow Ball here, but I do not have shields. They end up going for a Torch Song, maybe understanding that one Shadow Ball would not be enough to KO, so boosting their attack first, or they just plan on trying to entirely boost through my Fortress. They end up overfarming here, so I overfarm as well, going for the Aqua Tail on good timing. This does grab the final shield from my opponent, and then they throw right away, maybe anticipating a combo play with my Fortress. It is just the Torch Song, but that actually allows me to get to another Aqua Tail, and Aqua Tail from this range picks up the knockout. So we were at a 2 shield disadvantage there, and we were still able to take that win with DRAGALGE, and now in comes XL Fortress. Bug Bites hitting for super effective damage, Rock Tomb connects, and we are able to take that win. So yeah, that is my XL Fortress and rank 1 XL DRAGALGE. These two together were absolutely insane for me. Galleyspot, honestly, I didn't feel like held its weight. I think you actually need a better answer to ghosts on this team. So maybe I wouldn't run this exact team. One thing you could do potentially is, I mean, you could completely change this team around, but instead of Galleyspot, maybe you want to run Jellicent as a slightly better answer. Or you could put like Fortress and DRAGALGE in the back and then come up with a third that's good into Ghost for both those two weaknesses. But yeah, I mean, this team was so much fun to play. Obviously is an incredibly expensive team, and I know this video is not going to get as many views as my Great League ones do just because of how inaccessible the Ultra League is. But yeah, that's going to be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, peace.